There's only one root for the cause of the disquietude, agitation, conflict, or suffering in general that we experience when we don't understand who we are, when we are in this ignorance of who we truly are. The purpose of this channel and the practice that we have is to continue to inquire into the self, to continue to know ourselves for what we are. So for that, we always emphasize that we're not interested in philosophy, we're not interested in conceptual knowledge, but actually in direct experience. We want to explore always our direct experience to the expense of any other thinking or conceptualization of the direct experience. That is because when we do this, we are putting to rest that thinking mind that is always feeling in charge of having to understand, having to conceptualize, to structure things. It has its purpose. We are not saying the mind is the enemy. Sometimes it is seen that way. We do not advocate this because we have no enemies, only have curiosity in who we are. If we understand who we are, then we can understand the nature of reality. So for that, the most basic statement that we can make, and that everybody will agree to initiate this investigation, is that I am having an experience. You can say that right now and know that what I speak is true. We don't need to refer to anything. A child can follow these directions, and so can you. It is only the conceptual mind that says that is too simple. That is easy to understand. What's next? We don't care what's next. We only care to say, I am having an experience. So what is this I that is having the experience? Again, depending on how much you have read, listened to, studied, and learned, your mind will jump at an answer. Well, I am awareness having multiplicity of experiences. Great, that's the mind speaking again. Let that be as the wind. When the wind blows, the space does not care. It simply remains. You remain as answers, and yet I continue to see that I am having an experience. Normally there is identification with thinking, with the thinker. I am thinking these thoughts. Isn't that just another thought, though? Isn't that just part of the experience that I am witnessing? Of course it is. Again, you don't need to be an investigator or a researcher of consciousness or a long-time meditator. All you need to have is a recognition of your direct experience right now and say, yes, that is just another thought that says, I am thinking these thoughts. Allow that to subside, as it usually happens. In your inquiry, as you see, I am the one that is having the experience, am I identified with these thoughts? Or rather, do these thoughts identify me? Do they define me? You may say, yes, they do identify me. They do define me. Is that true? If it is, then it should always remain. You should always remain as defined by those thoughts. If that's true, can you find that in your experience? Are you constantly being as identified by those thoughts? If the answer is no, then all you saw was a coloration of yourself by those thoughts. That which has been colored is the question again. Who is it that was colored? What is it that gets colored by thoughts? All of these questions, all of these explorations are always pointing in the same direction, to know and understand the nature of who you are prior and after thought. Identifying when a thought is a thought and a thought is imbued with identity, realizing that the thought itself is just a contraction of the moment, a coloration of me as it goes away. And it inevitably always goes away. You remain. What is it that always remains? You call it I. I remain. What is its nature? The more we see how we identify with thinking, thoughts that are happening, the more we see that there is just a contraction of the self, that which you are, into whatever the coloration of the thought is. And whenever you feel yourself in that, I am thinking, I'm having questions, I'm not sure about this is not the way, do not be interested in what's being said. Be interested in that which is having the experience of thinking. And the moment you begin to question this, to investigate the nature of the I that is having the experience, the more you question into this, two things curiously happen. The self that is being defined suddenly dissolves. And the story associated with the self in the moment also dissolves. That which was coloring you in the moment, which could be in an experience of saying, I'm not good at this, I'm failing, I don't know who I am. Question only, who is the I in that experience which you're having? You're having skepticism about this practice. You're having doubts about your capacity. You're having too many thoughts. You're having too many questions. Whatever it is, who is the you? Who is the I that is being affected by all these thinking? And the moment you begin to question that, notice how it dissolves. Question, who is it that's having the experience? Who is it that is having the questions? Because your interest, your attention is going into the self, which is having the experience. And you see no coloration there. You only see witnessing, awareness, noticing, experiencing. That which is experiencing is what you feel. And of course, the limited, identified with thinking self dissolves. And in that dissolution, the narrative, the story, the questions, all of it dissolve. Do this with every single experience as you sit with yourself. Continue to focus your interest, your curiosity on that which is having the experience, not the experience itself. Let the experience be as it wants to be. The moment we bring our attention to the experience, then there is an investment with it and we go with the preferences of the experience. But the moment we move attention back to its source, remember, you are the one who is attending the experience. And the moment you realize that it is you who is having that attention fixated on the experience, and you question, who is it? Attention goes back to you. Then that little self that was contracted into experience dissolves or expands from the contraction, and so does the experience, whatever it is that you're thinking. Let it collapse and contract again, and question, keep questioning. The more you question, the more you go into yourself, the easier it is to see this expansion. And in that expansion, there is dissolution of the separate self, that contracted, limited, colored self, and dissolution of the story. Remember, you're not doing this because you want to get rid of the story, get rid of the separate self. You have nothing to get rid of. Just bringing your attention to yourself shows you the dissolution of everything else with one single important part. You remain, always. Realize that. It's the most beautiful part of self-inquiry, is to know that you always remain when everything else dissolves. The limited identity, the stories, the worries, the questions, all of that. We're not taking importance to any of that experience or thinking. It has its place. In this moment, we're only seeing how this happens. How curious that all dissolves while I remain. I remain always as myself. An experience just continues to flow, but I am not the experience. The reason why we do this practice is because a couple of things. One, it is the most efficient way for you to find inner peace, and not as a sort of resource, but actually as something that will continue to emanate in your life the more you continue to establish this practice. And two, because of its simplicity. It doesn't require you to do absolutely anything, but just be very, very interested in one single thing, knowing yourself. If that is your interest, then this is going to continue to give you all the fruits and all the products that meditation offers. It simplifies meditation into one single objective, if we can call it that even, which is self-knowledge. As usual, this channel is dedicated to that. I hope this is helpful to continue to reinforce your practice in the way that I call just relief, liberating yourself from any constrictions that you may have when you sit, questions that arise. All of this dissolves with just the same single approach that we have, which is self-inquiry. Question, who is the one having the experience? I know this alleviates the pressure in a lot of people that continue to have this identification with thinking. Just question, who is it that is having the experience? You will always find this. I have nothing else to share today, but just invite you to continue to reinforce your practice with the one single important thing, which is self-knowledge. I'll see you in the next video.